Right. We're dealing with a gadget here that costs $280 one year. The next year it's $310. The year after it has a 15% increase in price, and the year after that it has a 15% decrease in price. And we're just going to take a look at what's going on with the price here. First, we want to calculate what's the percent increase from last year to this year. And percent increase is always change divided by original. So how much did it change, up or down, divided by the price of the original amount. Of course, then we have to go times 100%. And change is always end minus start. So in this case, it's the ending price, 310, minus the starting price, 280, divided by the original price, which is 280, and multiply that times 100%. So let's see. We have 310 minus 280. That's 30. We're going to divide that by 280. And then times 100 gives us, let's see, we'll round it 10.71. 10.71%. And because it's a positive number, that's an increase. If we had a negative number, that would be a decrease. So if we were to say, have the price have gone down, and the end price was smaller than the old price, then we would end up with a smaller number minus a bigger number, and this would end up being a negative percentage. Okay, so now let's take a look at what happens when we increase the price by 15%. So that means we take the original price, which is currently $310. We're going to add to it 15% of that price. So we're going to add to it 310 times, and 15% means percent means per 100, 15 per 100. So we're just going to change that into a decimal there. And anytime you hear, like, say, what's 15% of the total? What's 15% of 310? Of is always multiplication. So we're taking the original 310 and we're adding on an additional 15% of 310. So let's see what that works out to. First of all, so I'm going to do the 15 ABC 100. That's 46.5. All right. So this part is $46.50. And by the way, we could represent this as 0.15 as well. So that's 310 plus 46.5. So 46.5 plus 310 gives us $356.50. $356.50. Now let's see what happens if it has a 15% decrease. Now that means we're taking the $356.50 and we're subtracting $356.50 times 15 over 100. So it's 15 hundredths of 356.15. So that's going to be 356.50 minus, let's see what this is, 356.5 times 0.15 gives us 5482.5. We'll round that off to 5483 minus, well, actually, you know what? Let's not. We're going to round it. We're going to leave it as 54.825. Notice that 15% of this number is bigger than 15% of the original 10. Yeah. So that when we take $356.50, and 50 cents, and we subtract 54.825, we end up with 301.68. Right, which is actually a little bit less than we started with. And that's because 15% is a portion of a total. So I'm taking a fraction of this 310 and I'm adding it onto the 310. But when I take that same size fraction but of a larger amount, then it becomes I'm taking away again something bigger than what I added on in the first place, because this 15% is 15% or the same size portion but of a bigger pie. Then here, this was the same size portion of a smaller pie. So 15%, I can add it on, but then when I take that 15% off, I'm taking off a larger piece because it's 15%, the same size portion, but of a larger amount of money. And that's why adding 15% and taking 15% off doesn't take us right back to where we started. It's also why, for example, if you see a sale, it's like, oh, it's 20% off, and then 50% off of that. It's not the same as taking 70% off total, because you're taking off percentages of different amounts each time, which is something we could talk about later. All right, but again, just to review, if you want to calculate percent change, it's always change divided by the original and then times 100%. The change is always end minus start. So in this case, we took our ending price, subtracted our starting price, divided by the starting price times 100. We get our percent change. If we want to calculate what a percent increase is, well, we just take the original and we add on to that the increase, which is the original, times the percent. And here we represented it as a fraction, 15 over 100, but we could also represent it as a decimal, 0.15, same number. If you want to do a percent decrease, then you take the original amount, and we're going to subtract that amount times the percentage represented as a fraction or a decimal. And if you want to represent it as a decimal, it's just whatever the percentage is over 100, because that's what percent means. Per 100, over 100. And then, or you could do it as a decimal, and it'd be 0.15. Okay. And that's how we deal with percent increase and decrease.